Hello everyone, it's part number 2 of simplifying Zerg build orders on Day 9 Daily 442. Now I wanted to note that this is a follow-up daily from last week's daily. In part number 1 we talked basically review for most of it, saying here's how we take build order groups, we do these collections of buildings, and then the next step is to fill in these collections of buildings with the units that we are making in them. We don't worry about the units until we sort of see what's happening structurally with the buildings. And though it might seem a little bit different for Zerg, we just throw down everything as normal as can be. Now here is the one little spot that we are at right now, where we've just listed off basically the first 10 minutes of Nerchio's build. I want to go just a little bit farther with it, or I guess further with it. We have our Baneling Nest and our other 2 gas geysers get thrown down. They all get thrown down at about the same time. Here's an infestation pit plopping down. I believe we have that as our last little group thing coming up. And I'm just going to keep going until he ends up doing something too much else noteworthy. He's, I believe it's double expand and then hive spire. Yeah, expo, and then hive and spire at the same time. Doo-doo-doop, doo-doo-doop, doo-doo-doop. Come on, come on. There it is. Hive spire. So I'm going to go ahead and put it approximately like that. 2 hatch plus hive spire. Now, one thing that I want to note is that in this 6th building group that I did, these 2 hatches were started 68 seconds before this spire and this hive. Whereas this gas hatch pool, everything was built pretty much within like 20 seconds of each other. The farther you get in the game, the more comfortable you should be giving a little bit bigger of a window to these building groups, but still make sure that there's some sort of link together. Pretty sure this geyser was taken at some point, but meh, I'll go ahead and put it here. So the second part that we were going to do for that we did for Terrans and Protoss buddies is that we were doing things like excuse me. For our Terran and Protoss buddies, we were doing things in this intermediate phase, like writing down what units specifically got built here. Things like Hellions, Marines, when things were getting constructed, and this gives us a pretty good insight. We can see things like players delay Marine production in a lot of circumstance. If you watch a lot of good Protosses, actually I dare you to do this. Go download just any 2 pro Protoss replays tonight. Look at them and just look at how long those gateways go without really building any units out of them. Gateways are idle very frequently for Protoss players. So this helps give us a sense of, oh, in phase 1 he's really active. In phase 2 and 3 he's idle, and in phase 4, 5, 6 he's really active again. It gives you clear statements of when stuff is happening. For Zerg though, we have to worry about drones. This is where drones come in, is in this intermediate phase with the units. And I'm going to begin this way. I'm going to say that I want you to just treat it like any old unit. What I want you to do is not write down 8 drones or 15 drones or anything like this. I want you to write just drones or not drones or something like this. Drones or not, and the other units that are going on. So, nice. Let's do this. An intermediate. Gas hatch pool. What happens in that phase of the game? What happens in that phase of the game? Many of you are thinking questions like, well, what happens if we get thrown off track? What happens if we have to make a whole bunch of Zerglings and we're going to be making a bunch of drones? Don't worry about that yet. Let's just pretend as we're copying this that everything's going to stay pretty cool. In phase 1, it looks like we get ourselves 1 queen. Do we get a 2nd queen? Yeah, we get 2 queens, 4 lings, And drones. Just drones, 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 drones. Look at these things pop off. Drones, 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 drones. 2 queens. 4 lings. Drones. Drones, 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 drones. Okay, cool. We're building another hatch. We're actually done with this phase. I want to just kind of naively note how easy this is. Just drones, 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 drones. Ooh. Looks like we had 6 lings get made. Drones. 6 lings and drones. And some roaches. 7 roaches. Look at that. And back to drones. Drones. Maximum drones. Drones. Drones by the dozen. Drones, 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 drones. Cool. Cool. Lots of drones. Still drones. Drones. Drones, drones. Wow, did we actually just go through this whole thing? Layer 2 evos and gas. Yeah, this is where we want to be doing drones. Okay, cool. What else is happening? So far, this seems easy, and it should. If you think this is complicated, what we're doing right now, then this is an issue. Wow! When we get the 2 gas in those baneling nests, look at that. We have lots of roaches that get built. A lot of roaches. And in fact, if we come back to this game state, we realize that this is when an attack is starting to come. Okay, I just want to note that right now. We're just going to take note of that. And I still want to come back, and I want to be staring at this sort of droning thing. And right on, back to a lot of ling, roach, wow, all sorts of production. Ling, yep, ling plus baneling, etc., 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 etc. And wrapping it up with a couple of drones at the end. This is around our infestation pit phase. Now, I've placed the drones in caps a little bit. I've also forgotten a couple of queens. A question that I get asked a lot is, how do I know when the queens end up popping up? Oops, dropped a couple of frames. Don't worry about it too much. Looks like everything's doing okay now. A lot of people ask me, well, what about the queens? Don't the queens end up being really, really... You know, isn't that kind of complicated on the timing of the queens? It's honestly a lot less complicated than you really think. If you're stealing a build or something like this, I mean, just throwing down 2 queens at the start of the game in group 1 works great. You might even find that this is 4 queens, that you get 4 queens before you do anything else associated with these extra buildings. You might find that you build another queen right here. The queen timing of almost all good builds ends up being just pretty clean and good and simple. If your queen timing is feeling really awkward and bumpy and weird, that's probably a sign that you're trying to get the queens too quickly. Just chill a little bit on the queens. Is it just me, or is it really hot in here? Ooh, man, my window with my happy chirpy birds is not keeping me cool enough. Now, to note, if we actually come and check out this game, Nerchio has a frick ton of drones. I'm going to come back to, let me see here, where is it? Around 75 drones. In fact, I think he has those at around 10 minutes. Thoink. Yeah. Alright, nice. Now, what I will note at this point in time is that Nerchio, having not really built that many units, just 7 roaches and a couple of lings, has almost all the drones he will ever need for the rest of the entire game. Almost all the rest of the drone He almost did all the droning that he needed to in these first 3 phases. This is almost everything that he ended up having. Now, I generally don't like going too far into the numbers game when I'm doing these kinds of things. For instance, right here, as these roaches pop up, right as we're starting on phase 3, this is the start of phase 3 was our layer, we have like 50 drones. Yeah, we have a whole lot of frickin' drones. We just haven't really sent too many over here. As a general rule, I don't like writing down numbers. If you want to, you can do something like this. 50 drones total. If you want to, you can do something like this. What I am going to say now, though, is the really, really important part of all Zerg build order thinking. Zergs get thrown off a lot when they end up playing. For instance, right here, a lot of roaches, and attack right here. I'm actually just going to remove an N and just put, actually I'll put under attack. We are being attacked right here. So we had to build a lot of roaches. I'll even put it at the front. A lot of roaches plus laying. I want you to note that we have a phase here of drones, a phase here of drones, a phase here of drones, and this is not that many drones. This really ends up being not that many. You're starting to see in this situation that we have 3 big phases of droning, and this is a huge phase of units, a huge phase of unit building. And I'm actually going to do, some drones here just to be explicit. Whenever you get thrown off, for instance, let me suppose for a moment, this happened. Under attack! And we... Oh yeah, that's right. Cut and paste allows me to do that. Suppose this happened. How many big phases of droning do we need? In this build order, we needed 3 big phases of droning. So, I guess this should naturally go here. In other words, I don't want you to think about it as, ooh, I have to build a bunch of drones. I guess I'm just going to build drones. Like, a lot of people would view this as the Zerg player built drones until he got attacked. And then he built roaches and lings. This is what gets a lot of Zerg players killed, is this mindset. Because they're like, well, I just had to build drones. I had to do a lot of drones and brr. This is, in fact, 1 phase of droning associated with these buildings. A second phase of droning associated with these set of buildings. A third phase of droning associated with these set of buildings. If you ever get stuck in a position where you're under attack and you have to build the units, you can say, how many phases of droning have I done? 2? Okay, then I need 1 more, and maybe a little mini one. Okay, have I done 3 phases of droning, and I built a bunch of units? All right, I'm good. I did my 3 phases of droning associated with these 3 building groups, broadly. Okay, so here's a pop quiz. Let's just say we are in a position where we get under attack very early, and we have to make mega units. Well, we just took our third, we just made roach and gas, and what's going to happen here? Well, gosh, I should really try to be droning, and I should really be following that up by trying to do some more droning. I'm aware now that I need to get some big phases of droning in. But again, it's just pretty much that simple. In this sense, you can think of a phase of droning almost like a building. You don't really want to go too far ahead without having all these phases of dronings done. But what makes it so difficult, mystical, and confusing for your average Zerg bear is the fact that there's all this possibility, or what makes it so generally confusing for your average Zerg bear is that often phases of droning are back to back to back to back in StarCraft 2, so you get this feeling, oh, I'm just constantly building drones. Well, not really, you're just making sure that you pin it to one of these groups, and then you're in good shape. The one thing that I will always say is that whenever you're under attack, I want you to say, take a break to drone. And then move on. It's the only other thing that I will throw in there. And that's about it. So, if we come back here, if I use my memory, we did do 6 lings plus drones plus 7 roaches, and then we did drones, and then we were under attack. Build lots of units. Whatever units we can do that are most logical. And at this part we did lings plus blings. Some drones. I'll go ahead and make it capital drones. Yeah! And there you go. And then we know by the time we're going to hatch, hive, and spire, we've had about 4 phases where we got to build a whole bunch of drones. And there you go. So let's go ahead and come back to this game. We were around here where we saw this other stuff going. At this point in time, you end up seeing the Zerg player build a hell of a lot of units and just flood with them. And this is where I generally declare the build order to be done. You have the setup that you need. Your evolution chambers are doing oh so well. And we might want to do something like come back here to the start of the game, and we would just fill in these upgrades. Because that's the one thing that I didn't end up doing, was the upgrades. I'll go ahead and tab out once to see those. When does speed go down? Does it indeed go down in phase 1? Yeah, excellent, speed. And I of course want to note that often you will see the best of the best pros do things like this. They'll say, well shit, I really want a faster layer. How can I get a faster layer? Oh yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to start speed in phase 2 of my plan instead of phase 3. They're very clever with adjusting these upgrades. Alright, let's see if we get any upgrades in phase 2. And it looks like, so far I'm seeing none, so far I'm seeing none, so far I'm not seeing any, I'm not seeing anything, I'm not really seeing anything. Yeah, no upgrades happen in part number 2. Yeah, alright, cool. In phase 3, oh, let's see, no, it looked like in this phase is where we ended up getting, is it melee? Nah, it's range, armor, roach, speed. Hell, I'm gonna spread this out big, bam! Ba-dum-ba-dum-dum. I recommend doing the upgrades last, generally. Infestation pit going down. Any other upgrades? Wow, we're actually not getting bailing speed. I would generally anticipate bailing speed. Looks like we ended up getting infestation pit. Pathogen glands. This is probably a mistake. I'd probably label this as a mistake. Oh, and look at that. He gets melee and +1. Many units. Melee, armor. Great, cool. And now we have a clean, neat, fleshed out plan. Now, I actually saw someone say upgrades last. Is that a good plan? What I want to note is that what we are doing in this process is not trying to create a build on the fly and leaving upgrades till the very end. That is not what I'm saying. I am not saying first just make the buildings and don't make any units. When you're in that ladder game, don't make units yet. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in terms of understanding, we want to understand what buildings we make first. Then we want to understand what units we have to make next. Oops. And the last thing we want to be understanding is when those upgrades are happening. When you step into a game, you should have all of this. You should actually have all of this done. And the question is, well, gee, Day9, this seems like a lot to try to keep in my head. What we did last week is we said just do 5 games, focusing only on this. And then after 5 games in single player, focusing only on this. And another 5 games in single player, only focusing on this. 10 games doesn't take more than an hour or 90 minutes to just blow through. And then you'll have really good situation here. This daily's going way faster than I thought I would. I guess I just got overeager, I suppose. But either way, the most important thing to note is this phases of droning going on. This phases of droning. What I want to do is spend just a quick amount of time on this advanced thing, the ordering. This is where we just do things like we play and we get hatch, pool, gas. This is where we do things where we say third plus roach warren happen at the same time, and then the gas goes down after that. This is where we say layer, and then it's quite a long time, and then layer, and then 2 evos shortly thereafter, and then quite a long time passes, and we get the gas geyser. That's really what this last phase is to make sure you have an ordering in your head, where we see that these things are grouped. And if you want a lot more information on that, go to last week's daily, and it should be started in part number 3. What I want to do now is, it looks like we won't have time to review Nix's replay pack submission today, so we'll be doing that next week, and I'll talk about the other submissions we'll be looking at next week. What we're going to do is we're going to look at a random game from a random player. How about Empire Violet versus SKMC? I like that. We're going to go ahead and look at a game of Violet in part number 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to break this build order down just like this. And then that way we can steal it again. Again, I want to make sure that we have some time to do these exercises with these droning phases in there. All right, cool. I'm going to go to a break. See you in a sec. Woo!